Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Lone Wolf Trucker coming back at you with another video. This video is going to be about pay. We're just going to dive into these numbers. I know I said I wasn't going to do another pay video, but here's why I'm doing this pay video. As many of you guys know, I wrapped up my rookie year or my first year with TMC, and I kind of been posting, pay videos roughly about every quarter. I got about 2 or 3 pay videos out there. This will probably be the 4th and final one, which is going to cover, my rookie year here at TMC. And the reason that I'm posting this video is because I didn't want to leave my rookie year kind of open-ended, right? You guys can see what I've made in increments along the way, but this is going to give you a breakdown of, what I made, week by week in that 52-week time span, my first year at TMC. So we're going to go over those numbers. And again, the reason that I post these videos, especially in regards to pay, is informative, okay? There's a lot of you guys, and I was in the same, position where I'm looking for information because I have an important decision to make. What company am I going to go to that's going to give me the most bang for my buck? So also, I'm going to post in the description down here the link to TMC's video. All right, TMC themselves, the company itself, says the average driver, makes $65K a year. And that video, when I was looking to make a decision on where I was going, that video was crucial in my final decision making of, winding up ultimately coming to TMC, based off of the numbers that was in that video. But I couldn't find anybody else, there wasn't another Lone Wolf Trucker out there, posting these numbers. You could find things here or there, but it wasn't really everything that I was looking for. So with that being said, I'll post that video. So if you haven't seen it, probably most of you have, but I'll put it there in the description below for a resource. If you want to, reference that video. I know I sure did when I was, coming into trucking and trying to figure out where my first flatbed company was. But this video, like I said, is just going to wrap up my rookie year. I'm going to put my numbers on the screen here in a minute. You'll see the 52-week breakdown. And it's also broken up by the 13-week, 13 weeks, which is the 4 quarters of the 52-week year that TMC goes by. So without further ado, let's jump into these numbers so we can wrap this video up. So let me go ahead and share my screen here real quick. All right, so here we go. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. If not, I'll know after I finish this video if I got to go back and edit this thing. All right, so let's go ahead and just jump right into this. All right, so quick breakdown on how I have my spreadsheet set up, all right? This is TMC, my rookie year. My fiscal year that I'm counting for this 52 weeks is September to September. That's my quote unquote fiscal year. All right, that's the first disclaimer I want to put out there. That's my first 52 weeks running in a truck. And the second disclaimer that I'm going to put out there is in regards to this highlighted section here, which has the sum and averages. Now the sum is pretty much correct, but the averages may be a little off compared to what TMC's averages are. And the reason that I say that is when I started my week 1 up here with TMC, I didn't start it exactly on TMC's week 1 13-week rolling average. And if you're not familiar, TMC runs with a 13-week rolling average. I didn't start my week 1 with their week 1, so the 13-week rolling average is off. And for example, my week 1 may be TMC's week 7. All right. So that's why my numbers, if you look at TMC's numbers, don't match up exactly. But, then again, outside of the fleet manager and people in, the office or in operations, who's really seen their actual numbers, right? So I base my numbers off of, my numbers are based off of my actual, my app where I get, my load information from, or my actual pay stubs themselves. So just to kind of go through this real quick, you have the way this is broken down, you got your columns A through I, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I across the top. We got the week. RTT is revenue to the truck. RTT CPM is revenue to the truck, cents per mile. We got dispatch miles. And real quick before I forget, I didn't track actual mileage, right? So my dispatch miles at the end of the year came out to like 104, 105,000 actual dispatch miles, but my actual mileage that I ran, when you look at, in the TMC app, it'll tell you what your accident-free miles are. I was closer to 120 for the year. So I almost hit 120,000 miles for the year with TMC and actual quote unquote mileage ran versus dispatch miles, which is, what the computer or whatever, calculates your point A to point B being your dispatch plus your bounce miles and your loaded miles. Then the gross is what I got paid. So these are, my numbers before taxes. Now, guys, you keep asking me the same question. Are those numbers before, after taxes, and I've explained this in other videos. I'm not, in none of my videos, you're not gonna see net numbers. I'm not putting out net numbers because it's kind of irrelevant to you, to every one of you, in particular. It's like comparing apples and oranges. So these are gross numbers. And if you want to see what your net numbers are, you could take my gross, run my numbers into a net calculator. You can find those on Google somewhere and plug in your deductions and your taxes and all that, and then to give you an idea what your net can be. But you guys keep asking me about these net numbers. These are not net numbers. These are gross numbers before taxes, deductions, and anything else. All right. Column F is gross CPM, cents per mile. The difference between this RTT CPM and gross CPM, RTT is actually, TMC's cent per mile rate, right? Which is much higher than what I'm getting. So the gross CPM I'm making, TMC made $2.16 a mile, and I made, 56 cents per mile on that. And column G is the rate. TMC, you start off at 26%. So my week one, I was at 26%. Other gross, I had this kind of all lumped together between TARP pay, breakdown pay, bounce pay, and a couple other things I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's the other gross right there. This $20 figure right here was probably a smoke tarp or lumber tarp or something like that, or could even be bounce pay. I'm not sure. And then CDL bonus, etc. This column consists of CDL reimbursement. You can see a couple weeks in here, and I'll go through that as I break things down. But TMC does pay. If you go to a third-party CDL school, TMC will reimburse you for that. It's $200 a month. I believe that's how it's broken down. That's how it's showing up in my thing here. But you'll get $200 a month reimbursement for going to CDL school as long as you submit all your paperwork and stuff to TMC to get your reimbursement. And I think I have maybe one or two referral bonuses in here, and that's about it. We'll go over the total numbers. They're going to be down here towards the bottom once we get there. All right, like I said, I'm not going to go over line item by line item here, but I want to highlight a couple of things and point some things out. First thing is, in my other video, one of my videos on the YouTube channel, on my channel, is about my Hell Week with TMC, and I'll post that up here somewhere, hopefully I don't forget to do it before I edit this video. But week 1 was hell week for me. Week 2 was hell week for me, right? These 2 weeks right here, those were hell week. And revenue to the truck pretty much sucked, right? Didn't do very much miles that first week. I had a lot of things go wrong. It was a real bad week. And, second week wasn't much better, to be honest with you. But, if you don't know, TMC has guaranteed pay. You're going to gross $1,000 a week for the first 2 weeks. So this first week, I grossed $1,000, as you can see in the notes here. And also, my actual gross would have been $585.41. So getting that guaranteed pay of $1,000, that first week in hell week was beneficial. Again, same thing here in week 2. I got another guaranteed gross pay of $1,000. Otherwise, I would have only made $723.60 gross. So that kind of worked out in my favor. Now, you come down to week 3, man, I could tell you hitting that big jump, it's almost double revenue to the truck, and then the mileage, dispatch miles was a lot higher. I thought I was actually doing something that week. I was pretty excited, right? I got, I grossed $13.73 to the truck. I mean, not to the truck. $13.73 was my gross take home, and I was up to 50 cents a mile at, and I don't get paid by cents per mile. I just do this as a comparison. But I would have got, 50 cents per mile is what, that's averaging out to based off of the dispatch miles. But in actuality, I'm getting paid 26%. And then I had enough, other gross, $120, whatever that was, TARP pay, what have you, miles, I don't remember. But it was $120 other gross that week. All right, week 4, revenue was back down to the truck, and then I only made $765 that week. But the CPM, gross cents per mile, was at 58 that week, but I still had 26%. And I'm not going to keep going over the cents per miles. This is just a comparison. I don't want to confuse you guys on the cents per mile. I don't get paid and never got paid at TMC on cents per mile. It's always percentage, but I use this column as a comparison, when I'm running some other numbers to see if it's worth it, 26% or cents per mile. And to be honest with you, it's about even when you're this low, right, at 26%. It's not really, you could kind of go either way at that point. Not till you start hitting 30% and higher, it's definitely worth, getting paid percentage. So I'll leave that there. But back to week 4, just to kind of highlight some things. Revenue was down. Pay was down, obviously, still at 26%. And I got $200 reimbursement for CDL school. All right, and I talked about this in my other video, and I'll post that video too, about I messed up coming to TMC. And I could tell you, if you look at the correlation right here, this is exactly how I was feeling when I started TMC, got my own truck, and I had 1 week where I'm like, all right, I can work with this. Let's see if we can make this better. And then hitting this 4 week, this is pretty much a month. I'm running below revenue to the truck. And you guys heard me say in other videos, revenue to the truck, I'm expecting no less than $4,200 a week revenue to the truck. That's my watermark. Am I happy with $4,200 a week? No, not really, but that's the watermark. I'm trying to be way above that, but definitely not below. And as you can see, I spent basically a month below what the revenue to the truck that I wanted to bring in, which obviously impacted, what I brought home. And outside of, and I had a couple conversations with my fleet manager on these first 2 weeks, because that was pretty much him being proactive, checking in with me, seeing how, those first 2 weeks were going. But then, I was having, some conversation with my fleet manager about this revenue being down, right? and I wasn't too happy with where I was, during this time period. So this kind of is a correlation, or it directly correlates to that video that I was talking about. In my mind, I'm thinking, man, I messed up coming to TMC. This is a bad move. I could have went to Swift and made, this kind of money, this $700, $600 a week. So I was not happy, during this time period. And then we had a little correction here. My fleet manager got me back above where that $4,200 watermark was. And, I'm still rocking 27%, which is impacting, my gross pay. This is really below where I want to be at 4,200. Based off of 27%, I'm really basing that 4,200 off of 33% when I came up with that number, if you're wondering. But yeah, I'm still at 27% right here. But if you look, I went, how many weeks did we go through here? 6 weeks. I did 6 weeks at 26% before I finally got a bump. And then, about 4 weeks at 27%. And then I, jumped up to 28%, but literally, this is 13 weeks right here, 14, 15, 16. It wasn't until 17 weeks where I actually broke through into the 30s, right? Let's cover row 15 right here. So this is the 13-week average. It's not the TMC rolling average. It's my 13-week average. Like I said, I didn't start my week one on the same week one that TMC does their rolling average. So that's why these numbers, if you compare them side by side, would be different, because we're looking at different weeks. But I'm counting my week one to week 52. So this is my first 13 weeks. Revenue to the truck was $48,191.26. This number is based off of the load gross. When you have your TMC app on your phone, to tell you there, once you get dispatched, it'll say what your load gross or the revenue to the truck is for each load. So the first 13 weeks, that's what this is what this truck generated in revenue for TMC. Average cents per mile, $2.24. Dispatch miles, not actual mileage, was 22,985. In that 13-week period, I brought home almost 13 grand, 12,967.19. My average cents per mile, would have been 60 cents a mile. And my average, based off the first 13 weeks, my average percentage was 26.7, which that's kind of irrelevant in TMC's world, because you're either a whole number, you're either going to be 28, 29, you're not going to be a 26.77, but that's just my average that I calculate off the 13 weeks. Other gross, TARP pay, breakdown, et cetera, came out to $1,483. And I got paid $600, looks like just for CDL, yeah. $600 for 13 weeks for CDL. All right, so you guys saw the first 13 weeks. The second, 13-week period is very similar, as far as a breakdown of the spreadsheet as the first, right? So you guys are pretty familiar how I got these numbers laid out here. Everything that's in red is below my watermark of $4,200 revenue to the truck. If it's in black, that means I was above, right? So when you look in this first 13, I had a lot of red going on my first 13 weeks. And, it took a lot of communication and a lot of back and forth to finally get on the same page, to get me and my fleet manager on the same page, as far as bringing in revenue to the truck and getting me where I need to be. And you could see going into the next 13-week period, we still got a lot of red in here, but it's not as bad as it was that first quarter, right? Second quarter looks a little bit better. And we made more money, right? Revenue to the truck went from 48,000 up to 59,000. Cents per mile, 12-cent difference. Dispatch miles, I ran a little bit more mileage, 28,534. dispatch miles, once again, not actual miles. Actual miles would be a lot higher than that. My gross for the next 13-week period went up from 12,900 to 18,500. So that's a considerable jump. My CPM, for shits and giggles, went up 6 cents during that period. And I went from, 26.77%, I went up to 31% in my percentage, my pay percentage. Other gross, basically, this thing will stop doing that. Let's see. 1483, that's roughly about the same, 14 and change. And I got another $600 down here for Cdl school reimbursement. All right, let's look at the third quarter of my fiscal year, September to September 2020 to 2021. This third quarter, I really kind of got in my groove and, was kind of killing it. And you see a lot of these $2,000 pay periods, where I was running pretty hard, right? I was, bringing in, significant revenue to the truck. Not sure what happened this week. I believe that was a breakdown. That's why this number is so low. But, I did several $2,000 pay periods. And that's usually running over $6,000 revenue to the truck, right? Once you get over $6,000 revenue to the truck, typically you're gonna bring in over a $2,000 a week gross. So this third quarter was real good for me. And if you look, I'm pretty much maxed out. The highest you can get at TMC is 34%, but realistically, you're not gonna hit that 34% unless you're a rock star and you have time in the company. This third quarter, I was a rock star. I was really killing it, but there was no way I was hitting that 34% because I didn't have the tenure, those hardwired tenure points to add into my, performance pay to get me to 34%. So if you're a rookie, you're not getting higher than 33%. It's not going to happen. So pretty much here I'm maxed out. And then that last week down here, I dropped down to 32%. But if you look, I started hitting 33% up in week 24, 25, and 26. And I can tell you, if you go to TMC, a lot of things that kind of helped me jump up. If you look, I kind of stayed 17 weeks in the 20s and then jumped up to 31 and then to 33. And what helped me out was, they got a couple classes you could take, TQM, Total Quality Management, I think it is, and a TQM, the Advanced Total Quality Management, and, getting your TWIC card, hazmat, and endorsements and things like that. They give you those hardwired points that stay on your performance record to get your numbers, up to, to max out your numbers that way. So that's, what got me up to this 33%. But like I said, I don't know what happened this week, but I believe that was a breakdown, especially with that low number. If you look at everything else, I was pretty much killing it, that whole quarter. And then we get into the last quarter, the fourth quarter of my fiscal year, September 2020 to 2021. And we can kind of compare. Well, let's go back and compare these yellow numbers here real quick. If I could get this thing to stay still. There we go. All right. So second quarter, third quarter, revenue to the truck, almost 60,000, and then it jumped up to 80, almost 79,000. Cents per mile really didn't change that much, about 60 cents difference here, 212 to 282. Roughly, same amount of mileage, 28,411. It's actually less miles, but, made more revenue to the truck and I made more money, gross. I went from 18,500 to 25, almost $26,000 in that quarter. And cents per mile jumped up, almost 33%, 33 cents from 66 to 93. And my average rate went from 31 to 32.90 to almost 33%. But as you can see, I ran pretty much this whole quarter at 33%, pretty much maxed out for a rookie. Other gross, tarping, bounce pay, breakdown pay, detention, it was less. I only got $12.60 for that 13-week period, and had a significant jump here in CDL. I got my regular CDL reimbursement, but I also got a referral bonus of $1,000 that put me at $1,600. So I was up $1,000 from last quarter. So that's that comparison. Let's go to the fourth quarter here. Fourth quarter numbers. This was an all right fourth quarter. I do have some $2,000 pay periods in here. I did have some times where revenue dipped below that watermark. And again, in regards to these $2,000 paychecks and staying out, right? On average, I went home, right? I went home more than I stayed out. And if you want to put that in a percentage, 80% of the time I went home, right? I liked going home. And 20% of the time I'd get a wild hair up my ass and just, be out there running. So 80% of the time I went home, 20% of the time I stayed out and ran. Now, if I flip that around, if I was home 20% of the time and out 80% of the time, I would have made a significant amount of money my rookie year at TMC. And for those of you guys that, don't have no responsibilities, don't have no obligations that tie you down, where you have to be home, man, you could really be at TMC and really be killing it. I kid you not. Sometimes I think to myself, like, man, I wish I didn't have these other responsibilities that I got to deal with that keep bringing me back, to the house. But if I was, out there and can just run and be on the road, I'd be killing it right now. And there's a lot of TMC drivers that are killing it right now that are out there and they stay out on the road, just making money. All right, so here's the last quarter, week 40 through 52. In blue right here, I took a vacation that week. So what you see in blue, there was no revenue to the truck. That $1544.36 is what I got paid for vacation pay. And that's the rate that I was at. And then I actually dropped down, below the 32%. Currently, where I'm at now is at 30%. And I'll post another link to my video about revenue being down. Honestly, I just kind of, got burnt out. And obviously, if you're burnt out, you're getting, worn down. Your revenue is gonna reflect in that. And that's what's happened in my case, to where, I've been slacking, like I said in my video, and just kind of burnt out. So obviously, when we look down here at my percentages, and I still bring in, aside from week 49, I still bring in some decent revenue to the truck, but I'm not running as hard as I was back in that third quarter when I was just killing it. If you look here, this third quarter I was just killing it, and then that third quarter burnt me out for the fourth quarter. I used a lot of my energy in that third quarter and kind of burnt myself out towards the end of the fourth quarter here. All right, so let's compare numbers here for the 13 weeks. So I went from revenue to the truck, my 13, that third quarter, 78, almost 79,000 down to 63. So you can see the correlation between, going hard in the paint, balls to the wall, whatever you want to call it, to, the 63,000 where, I burnt myself out from the previous quarter. Revenue to the truck cents per mile, less than 20 cent difference here. And I actually did less mileage here, 24,239. And that's reflected in what my gross was. Third quarter was almost 26,000. And fourth quarter, was 21,003 and change, right? And my CPM dropped down from 93 down to 85. My average, dropped from, 32.92 down to 31.38. And my other gross was only $795.80, and $600 was for my Cdl school reimbursement. All right, so let's look at these final numbers here and wrap this video up. All right, so my totals right here, we just went through all of those, but my yearly totals down here, I made almost $250,000. That's what the truck, I should say, me and the truck, almost $250,000 for TMC revenue to the truck. Now, here's one thing I got to say about, this revenue to the truck, this the app that we have, and the so-called quote unquote, revenue to the truck. Now, I had a couple times where I actually seen the customer's rate con. All right, if you don't know what the rate con is the rate contract between TMC and the customer. All right, and I was on a couple. I seen it twice in my rookie year, and each time I seen it, the rate con, right, the revenue to the truck, or whatever you want to call it, what TMC is getting paid, did not match what was on my app. That that revenue to the truck, or the load gross that I'm seeing on my app was a lot lower than what was on that actual rate con. That's the rate contract between TMC and the customer. So kind of had me scratching my head, seeing that not only once, but seeing it twice at a customer, at a shipper's location, and thinking to myself, what's going on here? Why is my load screen showing the revenue or the load gross much lower than what the TMC actual rate is on the contract? Now, not to knock TMC, I'm not here to count TMC's pockets, and I don't know what the reason is for the discrepancy. And honestly, I've asked that question. I didn't get a real answer. I've asked that question in both the TQM and the advanced TQM class. Didn't really get an answer, and kind of asked my fleet manager and his boss, the operations manager, about the discrepancy in the load screen pay and the rate con, and didn't really get an answer. And honestly, I don't care at this point. I'm not here to count TMC's pockets. Whatever the so-called load gross rate is that I'm getting paid, it is what it is, right? So I'm not here to argue that fact. I just had a question of why there was a discrepancy, but never got an answer to that. But that's the only kind of thing that's still in the back of my mind, that, but that's neither here nor there. I don't want to get off on a tangent with that. But when I look at this number, that revenue to the truck is probably much higher than this. It's actually like looking at my dispatch miles versus actual mileage, right? So when you look at the dispatch miles, this is right off my load screen. When I add all these miles up, it comes out to 104,169 dispatch miles. But my actual mileage, when I look at my accident-free mile, log in there, it's at 118 and change, almost 119,000. So that's a big difference from 104,000 miles. And I kind of feel the same about this $249,000 number is really much higher as far as the revenue to the truck if I actually had access to TMC's rate contracts to see what the truck was actually making per load. So I'm just going to leave that there. All right. So my total gross for the year, like I said before, and I said in other videos, my goal was to make $80,000 for the year. Did I do that? Yes and no, right? No, being the fact that, I came in short of that as far as what I wanted to make for the truck. So I only came in at $78,816.91. But when I add in, if you can see how the math is done behind the scenes here, We're going to add up the gross number with my other gross with this bonus money and reimbursement. All right. That brings the grand total to $87,210.71. When you take the 78,000 here, add that with the 49 here and the 34 here, gives you that 87,210.71 number. So ultimately, did I hit my goal of making $80,000 at TMC? Yes, I did. When you take in the total compensation for my rookie year. Yes, I did, right? But here's the kind of caveat here. The other gross, TARP pay and all that, that's always fluctuating. That's always gonna change. Some loads you get paid TARP, some you don't. Some you make detention pay, some you don't. Some you get bounce miles, some you don't. So that's that. Here, CDL, after a while, that CDL drops off. I forget how many months you can get CDL. I think it's 18 months maybe, or 24. I forget, but after that, that drops off. So that money will no longer be there unless I, bring in referrals, which I only got one referral and I didn't even ask for that, but happy to get it, don't get me wrong, which brought me to the 34 versus the 24. But that's the final number there. So again, guys, hopefully this video has helped you out. This is my last pay video. Like I said, I didn't want to leave my rookie year open-ended. So here it is. You can see the actual numbers that I made. And this is going to be a wrap. This is it. As far as, putting out pay videos, I think I'm going to start switching to doing some more videos, maybe some load securement or something like that. Something that's a little bit different on the channel. These videos start to get boring after a while. But hopefully this has helped you guys. Hopefully you can kind of use these numbers to get a general idea of what you could make. But again, like I said, I'm gonna post the video to TMC's video. In my opinion, I'm not knocking anybody, but in my opinion, if you can't at least make 65K, the average of what TMC says their average driver makes, you're doing something wrong. And that's average 65,000 a year going home every weekend. All right. That's not staying out, running like I did 20% of the time. Right. So that's it, guys. Wrap up this video. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully you guys found that informative. If you guys got any questions, you know what to do. Drop your comments and feedback down below. And until the next video, this is the Lone Wolf Trucker signing out. Peace.